Saturday, and we go, yeah, but you're using it. And then Monday, we use it. So,
I'm thinking they want to keep moving it back and forth.
oh, well, I understand, yeah, it'd be simple for them, it'd be great. Say, even if we did, we'd
Is
want
it ready?
2,000 a month.
Nick, I'm going
That
to...
is
Go ahead and start. If you need me to jump in on this issue, I will.
Okay,
easy.
we'll go ahead and call the Economic Development meeting to order. And our first agenda item is the population and employment data. And the reason this is on the agenda, and you have seen it in the past, and it was actually approved by KRCC last July. But if you will remember, here a couple of months ago, there was some discussion at the county level that they needed to may potentially need to massage some of their South Kitsap or Port Orchard urban growth numbers. And we had reviewed these numbers at that point, and we had agreed that we could take up to 2,000 people more into our population. As it turns out, the county did not need that, so that just kind of went away. However, the county did need to move some population and employment numbers from their Central Kitsap UGA to their Silverdale UGA. This was brought forth to KRCC last week, and it opened up the discussion again about the employment and population numbers. And Paulsbo, as a jurisdiction, is very concerned about these numbers. And so what KRCC agreed to do, just for timing issues, was to move their current proposal forward for a public hearing in April. But the KRCC is having a separate work study session on the actual numbers for employment and population. We were tasked, each jurisdiction, with providing our own actual demographics for the last 20 years, because it's important that we look not at just what a projection, but the actuals. So I contacted Nick, and he and Elle pulled together our actual population and employment numbers for the last 20 years. There's this one sheet in your packet, this page that's folded. The one, yeah, right there. And it's towards the end of your packet. That's very ridership, if you get back further. I took the numbers that Elle had given us for employment and population for the last 20 years. And I just quickly did our percentage of increase or decrease from the year before, so that we could see how Port Orchard performed during that period of time, and compared that to our current allocation. And the allocations that we're looking at would, as you can see, our total employment increase from 1995 to 2013 is basically 48%.
Is that 95 back, because this is 2000?
Yeah, it does, but I started up here. I actually started up there. No, I didn't. I started at 2000. But so for the last 13 years, it's basically 48%. I'm kind of unclear why we had the 17% increase last year. But you can see some years we've gone down and some years we've got up. And when we look at the population, and again, we have all of the numbers from 94 to 2014, including our annexations, we've grown by basically 128%. If we eliminate the annexations, we've grown by 70%. Now, what the allocations are for 2015 to 2035 our allocations would increase our population by 64% and our employment by 55%. My evaluation on this was that our allocated amounts that we have to plan for are consistent with our actual numbers. I don't find them out of line at all.
Where's UGAs? Do you have UGAs?
I didn't put the UGAs in there because I wasn't concerned about the UGAs. I was concerned about Port Orchards. And my position is when we go to this work study that I just wanted to get confirmation that Port Orchard was fine with our current allocations.
I agree with Becky. We have a problem here going on 2035. The small towns do. So I'll be speaking to the problems that I see.
And what
Part of
problems
that
do
is
you
the
see?
UGA. Part of that is the amount of employment and citizens subscribe through the UGA. And it also has to do with infrastructure and cost of it.
Okay, can you be more specific?
Well, like on what? Our infrastructure costs, you realize how much trouble we've had just.
All right, well, my
absorbing-
question is, are you suggesting that Port Orchard take on more or less allocation?
Less. And
Less
have
population
more.
or job? Less population or less job, or both?
Well, jobs, for instance, Bremerton has the shipyard. They should be allocated a huge amount of jobs. Even though a resident lives here in Port Orchard, we don't get credit for them as a new job if they're hired in Bremerton. It's Bremerton that gets that. That's the way my understanding is. So jobs are hard to come by in the little city of Port Orchard. Nick, tell me why we had this 1,175 in 213 for employment growth. Can you tell us why that is?
This is something that you sent us, or is this what L
No,
provided?
these are the numbers that Elle gave me that I worked with.
This is,
Those are
what's the data source on this?
straight from Puget Sound Regional.
Yeah, that's these are the PSRC data that we have. That's the only data source that there is.
Yeah, I'll have to look at this with a jaundiced eye because I'm not sure we got that kind of growth in 2013 or even close to it, so.
Well, and my question, in response to what Tim is saying, my question back to Nick and Elle was, we house the county, so are all county employees counted in Port Orchard? Even though they may never come into Port Orchard, they may work out of Kingston, they may work out of a different area. And I also asked if our school district administrative offices, which are in the county, if any of the schools counted in our number, because obviously the government sector is pretty high. So I was trying to determine what had created that bump. And the reason I brought this forward is I believe at the work study that KRCC is doing that we should be speaking with I should be speaking with the collaboration of what our council feels. I personally thought that our numbers were fine, and I believe that Paulsbo's concern is that they are, I don't believe they have, if they have any, they have limited UGA to annex, and they're experiencing population and employment growth. So my assumption was that they were looking to get more, to expand their UGA. Or their boundaries, and I'm not sure of that, I'm only guessing. But because it was being brought up, I wanted to go back to the KRCC with a consensus of what the city could take in. And I personally wasn't concerned about our UGA, I was concerned about our immediate boundaries right now. But I could go back and but I would need Elle's help to gather the information.
Yeah, as far as the county jobs, I don't have the details on their data collection, so I don't know for sure. But if the job is in Port Orchard and it's county or school, it would be in this number, I would assume. But it's hard to know without actually seeing the census that they took. Or
It's not supposed to. If it's a city, it's jobs in the city.
That's not, well, I'm saying if it's a county job in the city, then it counts as a job in the city.
Yeah, if their work site is
I think
within
it
city
would-
limits,
work sites,
it
okay,
counts. Is my understanding.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of how that information is gathered. I'm just remembering all the employment reports that I have filled out over the years. And, doing unemployment, for employment security or L&I. None of those ever asked me for a location. And at one point, I was doing that work for an organization that had 13 branches throughout Western Washington. And all of that got reported into Belfair. It did not get reported into Tacoma or Montesano or Westport, where we had various offices. So that's why I could see that number jumping up if,
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say, we did finish, it looks like, the annexation data, at least for residential, showed that 899 people were annexed in 2013. And so I assume some of these jobs are from annexation as well. But I don't remember an annexation happening before I got here. Unless it happened in 12 and then the data didn't come through until 13.
that could be, I don't know, unless I put that on the wrong line. I was just going off of, I got it, it's on the wrong line. That should be up at 11.
Do you think the 1175 for jobs is the Bethel corridor jobs? Would that be the correct time frame?
No, I got that off a line, that, no, actually, the percentages from the year before down to that one. That growth there, that's why I put it on that line.
So this is your document from the
Yes.
data we gave you?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
remember.
no, what I wanted to do is compare, because you gave me this, that's why I wanted the raw data, not just, and so I took it and compared it year to year, what happened year to year. And then I got the total, and I just said to myself, is this realistic with the allocations we've been given? And so I didn't see any need to do any great changes within the city of Port Orchard for the allocation. I didn't see a need to go to this work study and say, we really need more or we really need less. I mean, it looked to me like it was consistent with what has been happening within the city.
I know that the council has in the past said they know that 25,000 limit, population limit, is an area that they are watching. They don't want to necessarily arbitrarily go work towards getting into the big city class because it costs more all the way around, especially regulatory. I mean, the stormwater, that goes sky high. But anyway, if we include the UGA, we're well over 30,000.
Oh, we're at 41?
Yeah, 41 with inclusive of the UGA. Now, I've been involved in PSRC for about 12 years, not just here, but other organizations. And I know that they like to make it out like, no, we're just trying to meet this federal mandate of having all this put together, and it's not going to really hurt you. That's not the case. What happens is, as time goes on, they go back to that very document that was not really going to be too structured or anything, and they go, well, you said you'd do that. You got to do that. You got to do this. And they put the mandates on you, and that's where Becky and I are coming from. The mandates are so expensive. Well, when Alan shows you his spreadsheet, you're going to realize we're going to be a utility that has a police department, and that's it. Nobody else in this, if we don't do something. And we won't have any revenue either, because just those few projects will eat all of our advanced revenue. So,
Well, then
Becky's-
how would we stop growth? Because that's what the mayor
we're not
is-
saying stop growth,
Well, no,
we're
you
saying
are.
manage growth to
No.
what you can afford to do, not what you want to do.
Then where would the people live?
Well, that's, they'll live wherever there's a place for them to live.
So that's what we're managing.
Right. No, we're managing what we can do with the amount of money we have. That's what we need to manage. And if we don't have enough places for them to live, hopefully someplace else will, Belfair or someplace else will be able
Isn't
to.
that a function of annexation though? We just don't annex. They could choose to build within the
Well,
city limit
but if we've,
at a
if
higher
we've,
population or
That's true.
outside the city
That's very
limit at a
true.
lower density.
but if we've agreed to
We're the
take,
body that, but that's only within the city limits.
and the UGA, the UGA is a big part of it.
But we don't go over 25,000 if we don't annex.
But if we accept 41,000 at some point.
That's the UGA.
No, that's including.
That's
our
including the
growth
UGA.
and including the
But
UGA.
if we don't annex, we don't go over 25,000 because our city right now.
None of us will be
at
here then.
13,000 can support twice the growth.
Well, first of all, the allocation that we have is 8,000 and change for population, and we're currently at 13,100. So if we only were to grow to our allocation, we don't exceed the 25,000. But our buildable lands capacity, and that's the part that hasn't been mentioned, is, this is a snapshot of what has happened or what is perceived to have happened, but it doesn't reflect the changing in the change of balance in terms of the capacity. Port Orchard has a ton of capacity, whereas Paulsbo doesn't have capacity.
Land capacity.
Land capacity.
Land capacity.
But
I don't
if-
want to mix that up with utilities and everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah. But if Port Orchard does build to its full buildable lands capacity, we do cross the 25,000 threshold once we've consumed all of the land based on the zoning that's in place right now. So if the city was 100% developed, it's over 25,000. But for the 20-year horizon, we're not over 25,000. But I think that's the thing that's maybe when you're looking back, you have to remember that all of the land where the growth has occurred has been developed, and so you have to look at how much land is still available in conjunction with the past trends of what's been happening.
And unfortunately, everybody's looking to us because we have.
Because we have the land.
The UGA. And there's gonna be more and more pressure put on us because we have that, and Paulsbo doesn't, to force growth here, to force opportunity here. The trouble with it is, utilities don't come easy, as we all realize. And we've already raised the water a little bit, but not infrastructurally at all, not capital expenditures yet to any degree. So if we took all this growth, I think the citizens would be so burdened with just infrastructure that it would,
Well,
well,
that's-
of course, that'll stop growth if people move out.
I thought we had excess sewer capacity.
Well, we do have a little excess sewer capacity. We're running at about 46%.
We have it in the plant, but not necessarily
Not
in
in
the sewer
the, not in
lines.
the utility, not in the sewer transmission lines, pump
We've not yet
stations.
increased our impact fees either.
Yeah, I think that's the other component of this too, is that, they always say that growth is supposed to pay for growth, and so what the ratepayers are paying is for the maintenance and operation of the
'Cause
existing
we
system.
kicked the can for 10 years.
And what growth is paying for is the expansion of the system and adding capacity to the system. And you have to make sure that both of those fully fund their share of the total system. And the other thing that we've got a concurrency ordinance that we put together in conjunction with the impact fee discussion that we're having. What the city is supposed to do under concurrency is that concurrency is a certification that the adequate infrastructure exists to serve a development. If the city can't issue a concurrency certificate, we're supposed to deny a permit application. So that growth won't come in the absence of that infrastructure. We don't have a good concurrency ordinance right now, and until that's fixed, we really can't even deny a project even if we don't have the capacity to serve it. And so the concurrency is a huge piece to our funding picture and to our growth picture, is making sure that those facilities exist before we approve a development. And, in the next year, I'd like to bring that ordinance forward, and that's going to ensure, and also, I guess, if we start denying applications on concurrency grounds, the developers are gonna have an incentive finally to say, we need to create a LID to build the infrastructure that's needed, because we can't develop our land if we don't have this. And so that's kind of the third leg of the stool, maybe.
Right, it's what's gonna beat us over the head. Shelton, for instance, is just fighting through a $20 million project, and they're already in debt, so much more than we are. And they're taxed their people. I used to have the figures, but anyway, more than us. And the EPA, or is it the EPA and the state, between the two of them have said, you're gonna do this to your sewer plant because you said you were gonna take this many people, and you can't do it with what you have. So there's the hammer. All of a sudden they're going, oh, well, we can't tax our people more. And they said, you will tax your people more. So what Becky and I are saying is constantly we're getting state and federal mandates and no money. And we can't keep going back to our people and just going, well, you know, I'm sorry, we got to build a $20 million plant. No, the sewer plant, we're in good shape. That's the one good thing that we did. And you know, the only reason that came out is because the UGA out there went to Bremerton. And we're not obliged to provide all the sewer for the airport, for the SKIA project. So it was an accident that we have all this unused capacity. Now, it wasn't that we were brilliant or we spend the money ahead of time. But all this stuff has to happen years before. But that's what we're complaining about. PSRC goes, they'll take care of that over there, you know. That doesn't make it happen. That just delegates authority somewhere, but it doesn't provide any money. So Becky and I will be talking to that some more at this work study. You can't just say, take it, and not give us some infrastructure money in advance of us taking it.
I don't believe PSRC has infrastructure money, do they?
Yeah, they do. Actually, transportation infrastructure
Well,
all comes through
transportation,
there.
I know transportation, but you're
Right,
talking
utilities.
sewer and you're talking utilities, and I
Right.
don't
No,
know
that would be more state and it would be more county.
Yeah.
Anybody. In fact, if we're going to take all of Paulsbo's growth because they don't have a UGA, Paulsbo should help provide for our infrastructure. We're taking their growth. So anyway, we'll talk about it later. But that,
Well, no, I need a
That's where we're
consensus of what
coming
our
When's
council
next
wants.
PSRC meeting?
Well, this is going to be a work study.
When is that?
It was within 3 months.
Okay, so you're looking to bring this to council to get.
You wanna
their
put this
input
on
or
work study?
Yeah, we could probably put it on work study.
I have a question for you about this data, Beck. When you say that you're comfortable with it, and I'm not uncomfortable with it, but a question that I have is that if you look at the percentage of increases for employment and the percentage increase for population, I wish they were closer. For example, I wish our employment figures increased the same percentage that our population did.
Okay, what I'm saying that I'm comfortable with these are the allocations we were given.
Okay.
And I'm comfortable with accepting those allocations.
From
KRCC, correct. I did not go back and, because of what our history is, our natural growth supports the allocations. And we did nothing except have a couple annexations. I mean, and that put us way over the population target. So when we removed those out,
that's
it
closer,
fell
yeah.
in line with our allocation percentages. It wasn't like we had to do anything special to get to this growth. That is what has naturally occurred.
With historically, and I would say extremely low impact fees.
Correct.
And I think when we adjust them to an appropriate level, it will have some effect on building. I don't think to a drastic effect when you still look at, developers saying, am I gonna build in Port Orchard or Gig Harbor? Still gonna be penciling out
Yeah.
to build in Port Orchard, I think. But I don't know if if we're gonna try to look to the future, there needs to be some analysis done when we raise our impact fees.
I think the work study is not going to be about the allocations. I think we already passed those, didn't we?
They're ratified, yeah.
Yeah, they're all ratified.
Correct, they were
This is going to be
ratified.
about what Becky and I want to talk about infrastructure, needs and stuff.
Well, that was not the impression I came away with. What I remember was passed at KRCC was that because there was an amendment to what was ratified in July, that was coming forward for a public hearing with the caveat that there would be a work study and that those numbers would be massaged as comprehensive plans were developed.
Okay, that was not my understanding. I thought Becky was going to get to talk about the long-range effect of all these.
Becky wanted to talk about actual numbers and not estimated projection numbers and trends.
Yeah, my main concern with this would be is that we're proceeding, we've started the water plan, we've started the sewer plan and the transportation plan, and all of those plans are being built on the assumption of the allocation that we've adopted. And so if that were to change midway through the process, that means we're gonna be paying more money to have our consultants go back and change the assumptions, either to remove projects or add projects needed to support that growth to the overall plan. So, you know,
Luckily, we didn't add that.
yeah.
Well, now that
So we
you put
didn't
the
change your
dollars and
numbers.
cents on it, okay.
So anyway, there is a cost to changing that at this time, and also the cost of having to go back and redo things, you know, relook at things. The buildable lands analysis, if the allocations change, it may suddenly show that we don't have capacity. We have to determine what the reasonable measures we are to accommodate our population. If our numbers went down, that wouldn't affect us as much as if they went up, obviously, but, anyway, just be vigilant as you're having these discussions at, the regional level.
That was why I had it on here, was so that it would, everyone was aware of what was happening. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the public event toolkit. And we have, some items in your work papers on that. That's part of the piece, yes? And then there's this piece. And there's the media kit development and distribution. We just provided background documentation. We've had the discussion at this committee late last spring about a public event toolkit, and council directed us to seek funding from LTAP, which we did, and we got about $3,600, Brandy.
3290 or some weird figure.
3714.
3714. So, Brandy and I have met a couple times, and we did just an outline of what would go in the public event toolkit. And we also provided you with what we submitted to LTAC. And we do have, as Brandy said, $3,700. And she and I have worked together, and we have got most of the information that we want in the toolkit compiled. We've got the information together. Now what we need is to put it in an appropriate format for distribution. And part of that will be obviously on our website, and then we need some of it in either a print format or a format that can be printed to be mailed. But what we have is this source of funds to complete this project. And so we wanted some direction from the committee or approval from the committee about how to take it forward to actually put the toolkit together. And Brandy and I don't know how that process works. If we were to job it out, which is what we didn't want to use was staff time. That was critical, and that's why we have the money to pay someone to do this for us.
Yes, it would just be an ad describing what your end product's gonna, what you want the end product to look like.
And that's the toolkit. We're just talking about the toolkit.
We're just talking about
Not development, media development kit. It's gonna be
Well,
different.
that is the same thing, it's just a different name. I just
Oh, they're
named
both
it.
under the 37?
Correct. It's the same thing,
Is that the total budget, 3714?
It was
Yes.
just been renamed.
it's just been renamed.
Oh, okay.
It
But
just-
now down here, it says amount requested 5,000.
That's correct, and we were given 3714.
Yeah.
Oh,
From a,
well, how do you know you need 5,000 to do this?
I just estimated at the time that it would be 80 hours at $50 an hour,
Oh.
plus $1,000 for other items.
This is an old document, right?
That's
Yeah,
correct,
so
that's what we,
From budget.
that's,
So then what we want to do is go out for an RFP and see what kind of bids we get to see if we're,
RFP, RFQ.
or,
whichever.
yeah.
Isn't there a small works roster of under a certain dollar amount?
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, you can go
However the
that
committee
way.
wants to do it, they can put in an ad with specific criteria that they're looking for the end product to be. You can pull off of a small works roster that is now being, I think, hosted by MSRC. Go through there and search and pick 3, 5, 10, whatever you think, bring back to the committee, they can look at it, and then we can solicit bids from them based on the criteria that the committee's set forth.
You can even make phone calls, can't you?
Yeah.
From people that you know could do the job.
Anybody local, so we can keep.
Yeah, I don't know, that's why yeah,
I'm
that's
not
why I
against
was,
the RFP process, but it seems like a lot of steps for something that's essentially a very small project.
If you kept
But
it
you
small,
want
they
to.
might do it for that.
Yeah.
They might do it and then put a lot of extra time in.
Like to see the
because
small works roster, see if there's anybody local.
That's-
I don't know if does this count as a small works, or is this actually a,
I'd have to double.
I think it might be a
Yeah.
personal service. or-
Yeah, I think it's personal service.
Okay.
I don't know, you'd have to check to see which.
Yeah, check which one it is, but either way, if it's a personal service, you only have to call one, maybe two, you don't even have to do the three of them if, you know.
I like to see 5 and all be local myself, and the more the merrier, and give them all a chance.
Yeah, it's well under the threshold of any public announcement, solicitation for bids and requirements, but
yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to make sure, that we were there. And so, am I hearing that we're gonna check and see if it comes under personal service? And if it comes under personal service, we will see who, and there's a list
local
of
vendors, yeah.
Yeah.
local vendors, and then we'll call and move forward with it. Is everyone in agreement we'll just move forward, or do you want to come back to committee before we?
It's been approved and
Right,
To get bids. This is all. to
Do
get
you want
bids.
us
You know,
to
invite them to
pick who
get
we
bids.
pick, or?
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Or do you wanna come back after the bid's been received?
What's that?
Or do you want, once we determined that it's a personal service and we pick, let's say, 3 vendors or 3 local, however many, maybe there's 5 local, whatever, maybe if there's a maximum that you guys can let me know. Once we have those, we will provide them the information that we are soliciting for. And do you want to select those people that we're gonna solicit information for, or do you want the committee to come back with,
Just the
this is what
bids.
they presented?
I'd say the second part, with what they are willing to do it for.
Who they are and what they're.
Yeah, we're gonna
willing to
give them a
do.
list of criteria, they have to provide us a list of criteria with a dollar amount, and then that's what the committee wants to look at
And then we'll
see.
look at that, and hopefully we can have that done by our meeting in April, and then move forward with the project. Is that
And
possible
also-
or no?
You and I could add, show us something
It's
you've
gonna
done
be,
already.
yeah, me and, Rhiannon and I will be out, middle of March for conference for a week.
Okay,
So that's gonna, and then we have packets, so it's, I would probably, we'll see. I'll
okay,
try and put it on April, but you're probably gonna want them, at least, I would say, at least 2 weeks to provide the
Minimum
bid,
2 weeks,
yeah.
yeah.
It's probably gonna take a week or 2 to get the criteria set up and
Okay.
solicit, yeah, so I'd say at least 45 days.
okay. So,
For the end result, yeah.
we could look to make a selection, May would be, as long as it's coming back to the committee, May would be when we would wanna have that done.
So what's the max number of, I mean, there could be 15, 25 local, I mean, how many do you want? Do you want 6 and under?
Yeah, I would say no more than 6.
yeah, I don't know if you need.
Or do you want 3?
I'll see how many we get, but stay reasonable. Less-
I'd say at least 3.
Try to get 3.
At least 3, no more than 6?
Yeah. And then the other thing is, if anyone felt that there needed to be more data or more information in the toolkit, let us know.
Because this is what the criteria is gonna be, is they're
Yeah.
basically
Because
gonna
they-
have this.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to add much more and keep it under 3,700, but we'll
Yeah.
see what the bids come out as.
Well, and there are, I've been to several different city websites, and some of the kits are very simple and some are very elaborate, so what we want is just anyone looking to do an event in Port Orchard. This is all the steps you have to take. These are the vendors you can work with.
And it's gonna be one, we're not asking, just so I'm clear, we're not asking these vendors to provide X amount of packets. It's one final
Yes,
thing, and then whatever we choose to do with it, how we wanna distribute it, put it on CD, thumb drives, paper copies, that's the second step, correct? Okay.
Well, that's a good
Yeah.
point though, because we can't get trifolds or whatever we want. We don't have any budget for that. That'll have to be an extra.
That'll be separate, yeah.
That'll be separate, something we'll have to put in the budget and find money for.
basically, most of the people, I think, are just gonna go to the website. That's where we would direct them. And, you know, that's very common nowadays, so. But we would want it in some format that we could print, even if we, you know, just on a one.
Or zip drive it and email it, you know.
Right, exactly, right, exactly.
Well, of course, it would be on our website,
Oh, yeah, then they would, yeah.
so that would take care of some of those folks that don't have Facebook and Twitter and all this. I'm finding a lot of people are not doing Facebook anymore. I don't know if it's fallen out of favor, but.
Facebook started making money, it's not as fun anymore.
Oh, is that right? I don't know what happened.
Tim, are they saying what they are using, or they're just not?
I guess Twitter kind of took some of their, you know, that people, and that's faster, I guess. It's, of course, it's limited to.
So
number.
far, I haven't found people here using Twitter a lot.
You haven't?
No,
What are they using there? What's?
they're using Facebook.
They're still using
Yeah, but it depends on what you're talking
My
about.
daughter's generation uses Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram.
What is this,
Yeah.
pixelator,
Same thing.
picture, or what is this?
There's
Snapchat.
Snapchat. Yeah.
Snapchat.
Oh, Snapchat.
People are starting to use
I
that,
don't-
because
I
they
don't-
use pictures.
I don't know what Zuckerberg's gonna do, because there's a whole generation of 12 to 15-year-olds that hate Facebook. They won't use it.
Oh, interesting.
My daughter no longer does, she's 16, will be 17 shortly, and she doesn't use Facebook. She's more Instagram.
Yeah, once your parents get on there, the kids,
It's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's too formalized.
It's gonna be a moving target, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay.
Zuckerberg was smart, he'd be selling his stock left and right by now.
Next on the agenda is the foot ferry. And I know that Randy has given us several things. I also did up, and
And
you,
one's a duplicate. Yeah, I wasn't sure what was gonna be printed and
Right.
provided, so I just, my two handouts, which I think is a duplicate of what was probably already provided. My copier's not the best. You might want to use that one.
Well, I guess that's
I just did write the new rate at the top of what it would be,
and then I
166.
offered a bullet point,
It's 166.
Would be 2015's fee, yeah, or hourly rate. Hourly rate.
and then in your packet is also this bullet point, just for a discussion starting point for us. And I will review what I had put on the bullet points and then open it up for discussion. Friday and Saturday evenings, the projected cost for 2015 is $8,774.50. In 2014, there were 122 passengers on Friday nights. There were 276 passengers on Saturday evenings. And the fare collected for Saturday and Sunday totals $707.40. And the ferry ran until 10 p.m. both nights. That was an extra hour and a half on Fridays and 2.5 hours on Saturdays. Sunday service was from 10 until 6. The average ridership on non-event Sundays was 130. And then I just made a bullet point there that the service is important to our downtown merchants. The next bullet point is the port has reservations about funding what it perceives as a Kitsap transit responsibility. Commissioner Stokes was at our last meeting and expressed that concern. And the port also had reservations about the fare box recovery amounts and had suggested altering the fare. What I put on here just as bullet points to talk about was considering eliminating the service on Friday and Saturday evenings. Consider providing the service just for Sundays, holidays, and special events. And another bullet point is just considering service on the Memorial Day weekend, which includes our Harbor Fest, and then not beginning regular service until the weekend of June 27th, which is Fathoms of Fun weekend. What it would do would basically eliminate 3 weekends in June. consider a rate increase, and then my personal position on that is that I'm opposed to that. And then we need to consider creating a marketing campaign or designate someone to do that, because we do have LTAC funds available. Then I just put down there just some numbers in that the estimated cost that Brandy gave us was a little over $33,000. If we did not have Friday and Saturday, we would eliminate $8,000 from that. That gives us a total of almost $25,000. If we take out anticipated fare box, our total expense would be $14,000. Those were just some starting bullet points for us to talk
What was
about.
the total ridership outside of the Friday, Saturday? What did the other holiday, Sunday total?
The total ridership was 6517. The holiday ridership,
That's fine, Beck, because we only got on Friday and Saturday 300-400 for $8,000.
Summer too.
Is that right? Okay, I must have missed that. So 400 passengers for $8,000.
Yeah.
It's $20 per ride.
that's what I was looking at. The 2 years ago, or in 2013, we ran those ferries till midnight. And there was riderships the last couple ferries, but there was really a dead space in between. So we pulled it back to 10 o'clock, the last ferry leaving Bremerton at 9:45. And we're finding that we still didn't pick up a lot of ridership. What we want to remember is our merchants downtown basically close on Fridays at 8. And so the last ferry leaving Port Orchard at 8:30 still accommodates their needs. And Saturdays, most of our merchants are closed by 6 or 7. And so having a 7:30 as the last ferry leaving accommodates our merchants. There had always been concern of our eating establishments downtown wanting it later, but the poll I did of them last year indicated that they did not see a lot of usage, that their clients were not necessarily dependent on the foot ferry.
I don't see how $20 a ride is just hugely expensive. If I did my math right, the other rides for the other services are about $250, $245, somewhere in there. 10 times as
How many hours was
expensive.
it on Sundays? I wish we had the Sunday comparable, the cost. I mean, obviously the percentage is higher than Friday, Saturday. But do you know what, like, did we spend?
I didn't do that. What I did is I took, we had,
I mean, how many weekends was it? Was it 12 weekends?
we had this sheet in an Excel spreadsheet, and I just took the Friday and Saturdays and added them up.
Last year, there was 13 Fridays and 14 Saturdays and 11 Sundays that were not holiday.
I mean, the Sunday figures are higher, for all, but I think the percentage of Sunday is probably better than the Friday, Saturday. So there are 182 riders on Sundays times 2 is like 2564 revenue. And then 8 hours times 11.
How much money is our partners worked into this? Is this just our cost, or have you worked in all the?
This is
port-
this is total cost. This is total cost, and
We can reduce it by Bremerton's contribution.
Of course,
the port's
of course.
contribution.
I
'Cause it-
believe,
I think the only one that's
Port's not gonna
confirmed
contribute.
their contribution amount is Bremerton for 6,500.
Yeah.
The Port has not confirmed and the county has not confirmed.
confirmed.
But didn't you say Port was not supported because it's a KT
No,
function?
no.
But they were,
It's not that they said they're not gonna participate. I think they still will.
They
They haven't made a
preferred,
decision.
if they were to participate, it's my understanding that from what I got from the conversation, is they would only be supportive of the holiday events. Foot ferry service. They weren't supportive Sundays or evenings, is my understanding.
They wouldn't fund it then.
Well, they didn't
They
say that
didn't
either.
say that
They're
either,
just,
did
I think they're just having conversations.
but the conversation I had with one of the commissioners, one of the port commissioners, was again, a dialogue on Kitsap Transit taxing abilities and questioning their service levels. And my comment back was just simply that they were taking a much bigger political issue and putting it to just simply a service of us trying to get the foot ferry going back and forth on during the summer to create a connection between here in Bremerton and Seattle and, promoting tourism. They were making it a much bigger political
Right,
statement.
it was an all-encompassing
Right.
argument,
Right.
when all we're really interested in is helping our festival season out,
Well,
and
I
getting
I
people to-
believe we're not only helping our festival season, but that's why I strongly support this Sunday, is I believe we are supporting our downtown merchants
Well, and
on
Bremerton
Sundays.
helps, helps
And
with
Bremerton, and
too.
taking people, but if Port Orchard has $6,500 from LTAC funds to put in there, Bremerton has committed to $6,500. That's $13,000, and if we eliminate Friday and Saturday, we have to, and just with the projections that Brandy had given us, we're only maybe $1,500 short from the money that Bremerton and Port Orchard are putting in. So we may easily get the county or the port to contribute to that level.
I've got the same sense that you did, that the same commissioner was unhappy in general.
And I
Yeah, that's,
And I talked to a separate commissioner.
Okay, but
I
I also
talked to a
got the
second.
feeling, though, that they would support the same level as previous years. The county, I thought that they might also support it, but they wanted to be the last entity charged. They
Right.
didn't want to just divide it up 4 ways. So,
if we went over, they'd pay some
Right.
overage.
Up to a certain amount and allow it to the table.
yeah, they wanted to be the one, yes. This year, we didn't do that. We just charged all 4
and that
equally.
made them mad. It made 'em
So,
mad. I'm
so-
going, really, you got the big budget,
But-
you've got $300,000 or $300 million.
But and she felt though that the cities were already getting their portion of the same sales tax that they are, so she felt that it was going above what they needed to. But I mean, I don't
Yeah,
necessarily agree.
I've talked to her several
But,
times, and I keep telling her, how much sales tax do you get from Port Orchard?
But I was pleased
You
that
know.
the county would actually support this because it seemed primarily in Port Orchard, Bremerton, and maybe Port of Bremerton. So I was glad that they would even contribute anything.
The county gets sales tax from both of
I
us. The more people come here, the better.
Yeah, but you could see people in Kingston saying, why are we supporting a foot ferry between Bremerton and Port Orchard because we never go on it. Now, Kingston doesn't have that much sales tax, you could argue, but it could go on forever, but,
So the questions I have to Brandy is, does Bremerton, what jurisdiction, or is it a collaboration of the jurisdictions that determine the hours it's gonna run? Does,
Historically, Port Orchard's taken the lead. Port Orchard's taken the lead and said, this is what we're proposing, are you on board? And then they either say yes, no, or they modify it. So that's just what I've done. And they've come back and said, yeah, we'll support everything, or they'll support, but they're only gonna do, you guys could do whatever you want, but we're only gonna do 6,500, and these are the events that we want covered. So Bremerton has come back and said they're gonna contribute 6,500. If we choose not to do this Friday and Saturday evenings, they would ask that one of their, I think it's their beer festival in July, be covered for a late run up to 8, which it already is because it's a Saturday. So that's moved, but and then the port hasn't indicated one way or the other. They just want to know what is the city proposing.
I would prefer to drop Friday and Saturday night. I think it's horribly, horribly expensive for the few number of people throughout the season. Wholeheartedly support Sunday holiday special events.
I think it's important to have the consistency for Friday, Saturday. I'm disappointed that the ridership is so low. I'm also disappointed that last year there was not the same level as promotion of the whole foot ferry. The year before when you did it, we had a better awareness. I didn't see the figures for that, but I know that you said. Oh, there goes the time.
there goes,
I heard from one restaurant who felt that it did help their business from Seattle, but that's the bistro. I don't know, if they'll be continuing much longer, so we should
oh,
not.
is that right?
I think they want to sell it.
Okay.
I just think it's nice for consistency, because I think even if you spoke to, let's say, Bobby, she would think, well, if you have the same hours, at least people get used to them. But yeah, I am disappointed at the what's happened with Friday, Saturday.
I concur with Jeff in that I have no problem dropping the Friday and Saturday it's basically an $8,000 bill.
It's $8,000 for 400 people through the whole summer.
Well, that's what it was
Bottom
without
line.
promotion. You know, would it be
Yeah.
better if we promoted
But
it?
it's
I don't know.
still $20 an hour, and even if you were to drop that, or $20 per passenger, even if you drop that to $15 per ride, compared to $250, we'd be better off having a longer Sunday service.
But I would be very supportive of Bremerton's individual events that they need longer service on. I have no problem with that, getting people back and forth for those things.
Actually, Sunday service is $10, which is a moot point because it's better than the 20.
But no, the
that's fine.
Sunday
That's fine.
service is, besides the
They just said
holidays.
6,500 total. If I take out 400 passengers, that's
Correct,
6,100 total.
But our biggest ridership is the holidays.
Well,
Yes.
that's everything else. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
I
He's
lumped
saying-
it all together, non-Friday, Saturday. I got you. Yeah.
Right.
The Sunday's
So
a
are
lot.
we in agreement that we should eliminate the extra rides on Friday and Saturday?
No, but I think you have a majority on that. I don't agree with it.
I think you need to take it to work study session.
Okay.
But are we able to get that on there before this season, festival season?
Well, I know that there's many events out there that are trying to put it into their marketing material. So right now, I don't think they have, and I know the cruise is the biggest one, but they're not until August.
Well, right, and I would support, because the cruise has special needs. The parade night has special needs, perhaps. Bremerton has special needs.
July 4th is a Saturday. Are we going to go to midnight?
The what?
July 4th is a Saturday. We traditionally go longer on the 4th.
I think we go, 11 or midnight is
Yeah.
historically what we've done for the
So
4th of July.
that would be one. That would be an exception.
Because that one will be reduced. Because it's normally until 8 or 9 and then,
Memorial Day
Oh, wait,
weekend would
correct,
be
but
midnight.
the thing is with the 4th of July is we run those hours on the 4th of July regardless of whether it's a Thursday or a Saturday. So it's not an additional expense to us.
correct. Yes.
I don't think this committee can unilaterally dictate the service levels. I think it needs to go to the full council.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. I just, but we need to move it forward because I know as.
We didn't approve it until Memorial Day last year. That was too late. for
Right,
them to
the
promote
other,
anything.
the other thing we have with this, with the LTAC allocation that we got this year was marketing. We had dollars for marketing. So,
And it
my,
was $4,071 towards
right,
marketing.
which is well beyond any amount of money we would need for marketing. So the question I have for this committee is, do you want the city to provide that marketing, or do we want to pay someone to do that marketing for us? And when I say pay someone to do that marketing for us, is the POBSA has done the marketing and has in the past, and do we just want to use update their pieces, their promotional material, their collateral, and distribute it ourselves, or how do we want to do that piece?
That's a great question. They don't have all this funds, festivals and everything, right? They don't go out and get them all, do they get them just what they're sponsoring or?
For what, they have, if we go back a couple of years, when the council extended the Friday and Saturday evening, and they did some funny hours on Sunday, it was like 10 to 2, it was,
The Bremerton Farmers Market.
right, it was to accommodate the Bremerton Farmers Market. POBSA strongly advocated doing that. And as a result, their contribution to that was the marketing piece. And so they developed the collateral and distributed the collateral for the foot ferries. It had nothing to do with any events. It was just simply for the foot ferries. And then last year, they did that, but they didn't do any marketing until mid-June or later. And so, and they didn't do it to the level they had done it the year before.
Are we gonna get any marketing on the Washington State Fairs? Because,
No, you can't do that.
we can't.
Well, you can, but it goes through certified, and it's a pretty expensive
Is it?
deal. Yes.
Because, during the summer, they're all riding the ferry, and I'd like to, okay, when you're done looking at the Turner Joy, hop on the ferry and come over to Port Orchard, you know what I mean?
What we can do is we can put rack cards, or we can put whatever we have from Port Orchard Bay Street over on the Turner Joy.
Let's do something like
Yeah,
that.
'cause
I
I'm on the
wanna-
board of the Turner Joy, and I'll
You
bring
know,
them in and I'll set them up right in our
I
gift
work,
shop.
I work down there, I go down to the boardwalk, I see families walking around, they walk up to me, what else is there, what's there to do here? Well, there's a Turner Joy, and when you're done, hop on the ferry and go to downtown Port Orchard.
The two things we need, signage showing where the ferry is.
Yeah.
And something that tells them where Port Orchard is and
We
what's
can-
over here.
If we can grab some of those, because, the ferries are the #1 tourist
And vice
attraction.
versa, we need to get people from Port Orchard to see the Turner Joy too.
If
So,
we created A-boards, I've been told that the transit staff was willing to put them out and take them in on the Bremerton side.
I don't know about that, I can't commit to
That's what I
We
heard
had
unofficially. So,
talked, POBSA had talked to Transit's executive director 2 years ago, and the A boards were not an option for us. Unless we put them further down and perhaps put them on port property and had the port
There's
taking
one
them
for
in
Kids
and
at
out.
Harbor Tours, that's on the Bremerton side. So the thinking was there could be something similarly for this, the foot ferry. But I only
let's
looked at the
incorporate
actual
that in the
service.
wayfinding.
They
Get
get-
the wayfinding going.
They get off above and they walk down to the boardwalk, it's how to get them out on the B float from there. So, yeah, I think we need to explore those options.
Yeah, we can put perhaps an A board somewhere other than where the transit is. But, and we can use that as part of
Speaking of,
the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So, what are we taking forward to work study? Eliminating Friday and Saturday? And then,
It sounds like, yeah, considering this recommendation here, right?
So I'll just prepare, I'll update where I have it, the contract. I can provide the updated contract, a draft contract that lists the holidays and the Sunday hours, and I'll cross off the Friday and Saturday. I'll put in the new hourly rate of $166, and put the cost in there, and,
I think it's a mistake myself.
I mean, I can put that, and I can also provide the estimated cost and last year's rider count. I can provide that all to the,
what part is a mistake?
Eliminating Saturdays and Sundays.
Friday, Saturday, yeah.
Fridays and Saturdays. We want to get people to the Turner Joy, we want to get them over to Seattle, from Seattle, we're going to try to do signage, shows them where the foot ferry is, and there's not going to be a foot ferry, so I think that's,
Friday and Saturday evenings, though.
right, but, I just think we need to, and we're trying to make our evenings, get businesses to stay open until 8 o'clock and things, I think it's counterproductive, and it's not.
How late does the ferry run on Friday night now?
7th, when the last one's 7:45?
do I have that?
Is it 45 or 8?
Fridays,
It's
until
8:45
9,
on
or
Friday and it's
8:45.
7:45 on Saturday.
Yeah.
So the ferries are already leaving on Friday and Saturday after our merchants are closed.
We were also hoping that there'd be more synergy between people staying at the Hampton Inn, coming over here for dinner and going back. It may not have been realized. I think the big problem is that it hasn't been promoted adequately.
I don't think that we're getting the type of riders that we want on Friday and Saturday night.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that.
Personally, I think the few that are riding are a couple of sailors heading back to base.
No, I won't dispute that, but I think that we're losing an opportunity to get more people on both ways. I think it hasn't been promoted, so it's sort of a chicken and egg. You cut the hours, of course you're not going to get anyone. You increase the hours and you don't promote it, well, it's not going to do much better. But I think if we increase the hours and we promote it, then I think we can get a better synergy. I mean, that was the hope between, people here could go to Toro Lounge in Bremerton and come back.
So,
Forget, we have a Carlisle now.
And
So we're
I
gonna-
don't think Bremerton has promoted it as much as
The
we thought
Carlisle
they
is,
should.
wouldn't be, well, it might on Friday and Saturdays. They usually use the smaller ferry. We don't have control over
The
which
Admiral
boat
Pete,
they
yeah.
use. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
So are you saying go another year, pay the $4,000 advertising
I
and the
think
8,000?
I would
The
because
$4,000 advertising will not do you that much good.
Not for, I don't think I don't think it's worth it, but I'm only one vote, that's why I say
I
10.
mean, that's, yeah, no, I understand that, but that's where I would.
If we had the commitment from the partners,
Well, I think Bay Street, Port Orchard Bay Street Association may commit to some
Do you
advertising.
mean the Port of Bremerton and the county for funding?
I'm
or
at
what?
Bremerton,
Yeah.
River County, yes.
Yeah, I think they
Because
would,
we have money for advertising. We have $4,000 for advertising.
I think they would support it at the same level as previously, so I'm a little concerned that if we no longer ask them for any support, it would be impossible to get in the future. But if we're, you know, it's like, if we don't believe that we'll ever get any synergy between the two places, then we might as well just stop it now. That's really one, but I'm hopeful. You know, I'm thinking that if we get
I
all our
am
ducks in a
too.
row, we could do better. That's why I said we're going.
I'm okay, we'll take it to work study and let the council, figure it out. And we'll have to see if our partners are, willing to come up with the extra money. Because what the commitment we've got from Bremerton and Port Orchard
It's not enough.
is not enough.
So based,
So
I
you-
did the summary, the new hourly rate, it's about 34,000. If we just did this, if we put all of our 10,571 in there, the the
Correct.
city of Bremerton, the Port of Bremerton, Kitsap County, and the estimated cash revenue is the same as last year as it will be for this year, you're looking at 38,000 of revenue. So we're gonna still be short 3,800, is that what it's gonna be, or 4,400, whichever. So we're still gonna be short about $5,000.
Short or over?
I mean,
Oh,
over,
I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry,
be
I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say, that
Over.
doesn't
If we,
happen.
wrong way, wrong way.
Right,
wrong
if
way.
we got all of the commitments.
Yes, we wouldn't need the county, but we would have to have the port,
Correct.
that's what I meant to say.
And we know, we hope that this figure is gonna be better than last year.
Right.
If it's,
We-
that's
we
the
don't know.
intent, but that's the intent.
The ridership has been relatively consistent of about 6,500
That's with
for the
exact
last
same
few
as last
years.
year.
So,
So if you test right-
Oh, so then you have a staff report and you don't have to spend time on that for the work stuff.
Correct.
yeah.
And I'll have Janine, Janine will be here presenting it, Brianna and I will be out, that week, so.
Okay, and we'll go on to yours, Nick.
Okay, I've got two contracts I wanted to talk about. The first of them is the Critical Areas Code update. We went out with a request for proposals and got a couple of firms that submitted proposals. ESA was determined to be the most qualified of the three that we talked to.
ESA stands for,
Environmental Science Associates, I think.
okay.
And their office is over in Seattle, but unfortunately, the contract came back a little bit higher than what we budgeted. We'd initially been told that this project ranges from $25,000 to $75,000 to do. Council budgeted 20 to do it, hoping that we could get on the low end of it, and it came back at 38. The good news is that one of my other projects that was approved in the budget, the LID project for $10,000, we went to a workshop recently, and I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to do that in-house, and I've actually already done half of it. That was required, and that's not required until middle of 2016. So, assuming we could apply those $10,000 in funds to this project, we're about $8,580 short to pay for this amount. But like I said, it's a required project. The city is required as part of its 8-year comp plan update to consider best available science, which involves updating the critical areas code and a comp plan element dealing with environmental issues. And essentially, you have to go review the latest scientific information on critical areas, setbacks, habitat, what species are identified as needing protection under local regulations, et cetera. And so at this point, we have to get this thing going. We certainly could go back out, but that's going to take a lot of time and resources, and I don't know that you're going to do a whole lot better. The other firm we interviewed was actually going to be subbing out about 60% of the work to another company, And when you sub things out, you're paying tax on everything twice, and so I didn't feel like it was even worth talking to them about price because they're at such a disadvantage on a small project like this when they're using subs versus doing 90% of the work in-house. So anyway, I'd like to bring this forward at the next meeting, and I wasn't sure which committee to bring this to, but since we're talking about Mind Mixer, I figured I'd bring it here. And if I need to go back out and talk to somebody else, or, you know.
So basically, where are we gonna come up with the extra 8,000?
Well, I think there's some things that have happened in the department, and I think we're going to be able to make this up. We're not buying some equipment we thought we were going to buy. You know, there's a couple of miscellaneous items and training items that we may not fully use. I think I can manage it, you know, within the bottom line that we have for the department. So I'm not worried about the total amount. I'm just worried about the perception that you budgeted for one thing and it's costing more, and making sure that you feel comfortable that I'm able to manage it within the budget, which I think I am. So.
Well, I'm comfortable with your being able to manage it, but I am disappointed that it's taking up so much of your resources. I'd rather you had the training that you planned for than, I mean, this is not the most exciting thing that we're purchasing this year for planning.
No, it's not.
The problem though, Fred, is it's mandated.
I know it's mandated, so you don't think we can get any lower? I mean,
Well, I did get lower, but it involved them cutting out tasks, and it meant that I was going to have to do more work internally. And when I look at the course load and some other challenges that the department is facing,
It's not worth
I just can't take on that much task. It's easier for me to have it done outside.
How often does this need to be done?
Every 8 years.
Every 8 years?
Yeah, so
So
this is
from
just-
8 years from now, you're gonna add 3.5%.
Well, there's an update in there too.
To 40 grand for 8
Yeah.
years, so we budget better next
That's
time.
2 mayoral elections away, so.
They're finally doing the repair on the outside?
No, it's a woodpecker, I think. I get woke up every morning at sunup with a woodpecker right over my window
Yeah,
doing that
woodpecker.
thing.
Does that mean we have bugs in the building that the woodpecker's going after?
Yes, it does. It means there's bugs somewhere close by it.
they like metal too, yeah.
Well,
So that
you
one's
get
okay, I
on the
just
metal and then
wanted
you
to bring it
cut-
to your attention so you're not surprised when you see it in 2 weeks. Then the Mind Mixer contract, that's on the agenda for tomorrow night. I know we talked about this at the committee, and this is a non-standard contract form because it's kind of a unique service, and if you've read your packet, you'll see that there's a resolution attached to the contract, and we're just stating that it's a sole source product because they're the only company that provides the exact service. There are a few competitors that do school districts or large government agencies and corporations. But it came back, I had quoted you at $2,000 a month. That was what I was told last July, but it's actually $2,500, and that's per a 5-year agreement. However, you'll see that under clause
Is it annual
5,
fee or monthly fee?
annual.
You said monthly.
Sorry, yeah, annually. Under clause B5, under the billing, it says that if we don't like it at the end of year 1, we can essentially give them notice and terminate the contract and get out of the 5-year agreement, in which case we could even go back and say we want to continue it for 1 year, but we're not willing to commit to the 5. But we went back and forth on this. They sent a bunch of different variations on how we could make a shorter term agreement cost less, but they said, look, this is the price of the service, you know, take it or leave it. And so I think we just have to set ourselves a reminder that in April and November, when we're doing budget, we talk about this and, you know, notify them that we want to either get out of it, or if council wants to continue, they can continue if they like what they see. So anyway,
One of the questions I have, just, when we talked before and you talked $2,000, that was for just your department. And,
Yeah.
and so are we looking at this 2,500 for just your department?
there's nothing in the agreement that says that this is just our department, and so I don't know whether the structure changed. I know the person that I had talked to before budget left and took a different job, and so I'm talking to a new person now, and I don't know if that person had wrong information or if there was a different structure in place at the company. It's a pretty small firm from what I understand.
So is it users that we have? Or
No,
licensed for
the
so many
city
users?
can use it for anything it
So
wants
it's
to use it
anybody
for.
then. As
So,
far as
yeah.
we know, we can do it from any department. You could do it.
Yeah, and so one of the first questions I think, should we finalize the deal on 640 Bay Street? I think a great open-ended question where,
What do you think should happen?
What do you think should happen to this site, and solicit ideas, and then people can comment on those ideas, they can like those ideas, and we can get a sense of what people think, and so there's other things in the city I think we could use this
I
for
can't
as well.
wait. Yeah, I think it'd be-
Nick, is each comment approved, or do you have that ability to approve?
It has an automatic filter, so anything
Okay.
with profanity is gonna get filtered out.
Otherwise, it could
and
be
then we
posted
can
on the
flag,
website, right?
we can flag abuse.
Yeah, it has,
Okay.
We don't actually,
What I
we don't
understand
censor it
is-
ourselves, but we can flag something if it's brought to our
Right, and
attention.
So if we get a public.
And we can also ban a
disclosure
user
request,
if we
we
need
can
to.
have it on
If we
the
see
program
something
that
we're
we can
concerned about,
export
we'll
out.
definitely.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
And I
Is
think
there
we
a
get a
time for
notice
the
every time
archives?
somebody posts, so we can check what's there and,
I
They
think
they may
the,
have a pre-approval option if you really want to manage it, but you probably don't.
yeah. So anyway, this is on the agenda tomorrow. If there's any questions or concerns, speak now or.
oh, any times that somebody says, I want any and all
Did you have
regarding
any-
this topic.
No.
we don't have to go to
No,
this
it's fine.
program.
Yeah, we're good on that. And then, I think you have pictures
Okay,
of
that's,
our wayfinder.
Yeah, well, there's two documents here. One of them is wayfinding, one of them is logo. So I'll pass these out. Here's the logo.
Are these going to be on the website? Because I'm sure there'll be a public disclosure request on it.
We have
Yeah.
to seek 3 other council members.
They will eventually.
Okay.
And this is my first time seeing these because it came in the mail on Friday when I was
Yeah,
there.
for you.
Oh, no, we put this.
So the logo guide, you'll notice that there's color options, there's specific examples, there's the exact color programming for if you're doing print materials, graphic designers use the color codes and the,
Oh,
to determine
okay.
what the exact color is. There's guidelines for how not to use the proposal. The font is included. And then the various layer elements are available for people to
Yeah.
separate it.
Yeah.
So a red
Use it.
port on the second page or fourth page is okay?
I'm
no
guessing
line
that's
through
supposed
it.
to be, have a line through it, but it's possible it didn't print. That's a good catch.
Where?
On
Fourth page, there's
prohibited.
no line through the red portures.
Oh, there isn't.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's
And
supposed to have a
Maybe it
line.
didn't print because the port is red.
Yeah, it could be that there's 2 reds in there and so it didn't print.
So anyway, that, we can make that available, and I don't know whether you, whether we need to create like a JPEG from this and have it available for people to drop into something.
I want to discuss that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and we can discuss that right now, because I had always envisioned that because we have this wayfinding system, that this particular mark that we're looking at, this mark, would be used in advertising media. And I was thinking specifically the Discover magazine that goes on the Washington State ferries, and the Explore Port Orchard, which is a consortium of 6 different nonprofits, puts an ad in there. And I was seeing this on it, in that ad, and in various ads that the nonprofits use to advertise their events. And then when people get to Port Orchard, they see our wayfinding signs with this on it, they've got a connection to the 2. That's how I thought we would be using it. Well, Brandy sought clarification from the city attorney, and apparently there is concern about liability, that if our mark was used on a ad for the fireworks at the parade and someone got hurt at the parade, we would be sued. And so there was a liable issue. And what if we had a group like the neo-Nazis that wanted to use this? How would we control usage of it? And my personal thought on that is, I thought that we had just kind of let go of common sense, because there are, like Wave Broadband pays in excess of $10,000 to have their name associated with the fireworks. Columbia Bank pays a great deal of money to have their name associated with the parade. I'm not sure why we would be afraid to have Port Orchard on a piece of advertising. I also was not sure why we would want to discriminate among particular groups that may want to use it. And my initial thought was that we were going to be using this with organizations that LTAC money was paying for the ads with. You know, that was my initial thoughts, but the attorney brought in other concerns, and so I thought it important that we have that discussion before we got this mark out there, and
I think this mark should be copywritten as exclusive for Orchard. And the idea behind the copyright, it doesn't cost a lot, it's very fast. You can send a copy list, or send the exact logo that you want, and you send it back to DEC, they come back with a copyright. Then we get to control who we may license to use it and not license to use it. So
right, well, that was, she was assuming that we had control of it anyway, and then she was wondering what criteria we would have as to
it
who
came into
used it.
quite a problem with this, because this has never been copyrighted.
You're right.
And if you remember when we were going into a city manager, there was a brochure that used this blown up on the top of it, and it led you to believe that that was an official city document,
Okay,
and it was not, and we couldn't do a thing about it. I mean, because we didn't have a copyright, so.
And I think it would actually be a trademark on that
A
logo.
trademark.
Okay,
Yeah,
trademark,
but yeah, that's-
copyright, yeah, with the words, I guess.
But yeah, I think that's probably an
A
easy
good
thing to
idea,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to do it before, like you said, before we get out there and people start just using it whenever they feel like using it.
Also, we could see how Bremerton, handles their B logo, and it would be the same thing.
I would suspect they didn't copyright that either, or what did you call it?
Well, then we
Trademark.
don't want to do
Trademark
that.
it.
But I'm thinking in terms of how they control the use of it. If they control the use of it, we probably want to do as well as or better than that.
I would be in favor of trademarking
Trademarking
it.
it, yeah.
And then, as far as us using it on publications, that's the purpose for it.
I think so,
I'm not
too.
worried about getting sued because we're using our own logo. And then as
but
far
if we
as
had nonprofits using it, like Fathoms and Sons.
whatever's gonna
We could
promote the
license it
city,
then to do it.
give it to them for a buck to put, whatever's gonna promote the city.
Well, what's interesting about it is it doesn't say City of Port Orchard.
Correct.
It just says Port Orchard. So
Correct.
it's actually a more widespread brand than just the city government.
Yeah, I felt so too. I thought that we were really protecting ourselves.
And then the last thing, as far as, I'm sorry.
Weren't we gonna let people make T-shirts if they wanted to with this logo? Or were we
I
gonna do it
hadn't even
ourselves,
thought of
or-
that.
Okay,
I hadn't.
If we get a buck a shirt,
well, we should do it ourselves and sell it downstairs.
the last thing would be on the use of the logo by other entities. You said neo-Nazi or whatever.
That was the example the
That's
attorney
gotta be a
used.
policy that, I don't think we wanna pick and choose who. If the permit or the request meets the policy, then I think, I don't, personally wouldn't like it, but I don't think we can say no to each individual if they meet the requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we just need some basic criteria for when it's approved, which says that it's for events that promote tourism and, won't,
Because that's where we'll get sued if we get sued, is for denying
If
somebody
it
without
is
reason.
discrimination, exactly. Because all of those events that, any of the nonprofits that may use this in advertising, they're already providing insurance for their event downtown. We're already a lost payee on their insurance. I mean, I just didn't see the liability of somebody getting hurt at the parade, us being sued because our mark was in their ad.
We're gonna get sued anyways, just because it happened,
Right.
right away.
Right.
yeah, and I don't know how one of those organizations is gonna get somebody to insure them for an event. I don't know, their insurance company will.
Yeah.
They have some.
Oh, they know, they are. They are.
They get their insurance, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Blades of
We
Grass
have
or
to,
something.
they have to provide $1 million policy to the city in order
Oh,
to have.
I
an
meant,
event.
I meant for groups that
Oh, the
might
neo-Nazis and that sort of
incite,
stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah.
riot or something. I think they would have trouble getting that.
The
insurance.
permit, yeah.
No, we need to think about the copyrights, because I thought we were gonna let anybody do a T-shirt. I'm serious. I mean, I was gonna do a T-shirt and just download the logo from, I wasn't gonna resell them. fine.
So it sounds like this is something we need to look into and,
A trademark,
Yeah.
and then a policy for usage. I have to say, I'm disappointed in the way the Port Orchard looks here. It
one's
looks
that?
like that's white back there, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't.
maybe the print here, I think it probably specifies the material.
Okay, and it's the material that isn't printing through, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a business copier, not a
Right.
graphics copier.
Right,
But anyway, I think, I was flipping through this and I see that, first of all, I did notice that McCormick Village Park was not on the map, so I need to have that added on there.
okay.
But when we get to the sign spec, it's gonna spec the material, I think, 6 and 7C. Painted aluminum.
Yeah, I'm sure there's color to it, it just didn't print, it just,
And then it's got a color, and it says it's a Pantone Cool Gray 11 is the color, so it's actually gray, it just, I don't think it shows up because there's not,
yeah,
the
yeah.
printer doesn't have that capability. But yeah, when you look at actually the bid specs on G 3.3, and going through all the signs, you'll see that it has the exact specifications for a sign maker to use to give us a quote on how much it's gonna cost to make one of these signs. And it looks like, also on the table, we may need to go through this because some of these have like 8 or 9 items on there, and we may need to go through and pick which ones we want to identify on a particular sign before we order it, because I think the goal was to get it to about 4, no more than 4 items per sign.
Right,
So,
This is good. This is a pretty detailed description
Yeah.
of the building use, I think, which was more than what some had expected.
I wonder how many public disclosure requests
Exactly.
we're gonna get
When
on it.
yeah,
that
this
was
is
a big
this is a
brouhaha.
bid specification,
This is
not,
what we needed to do to finish the project, so.
oh, exactly, and I really like the mark. I think it's a little trendy, but I like it.
No, it's a nice product and it looks really good. I can't even remember if this was the one that I wanted. 'Cause it's a nice end product.
All right. Is there anything else?
The other thing that I just wanted, and I don't know whether they were included in your packet, was a copy of the economic development
yeah, they printed that this
element.
morning.
Of the comprehensive plan, in that I thought that this committee should probably take a good look at that before we got into other discussions. Things that I would point out just off the top of my head is, I would ask you as you read it to think about, and again, this is just off the top of my head, think about how you want to define living wage, because this says that living wage may vary between places and may be lower, equal, or higher than the local or state minimum wages. And we're waiting for updates in there, but our living wage is less than the state's minimum wage. So we want to be cognizant, is that the language you want there? That's just one of the things that.
Was that dependent on household size? though?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
6 or 7?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's, I think that was like an MIT methodology because nobody's really done this before.
Right.
And you have to ask yourself the question whether you even want this in the comprehensive plan because it could
Ex-
lead to other discussions.
exactly. That's why I was
No.
pointing it out.
No.
And the initial commentary in here talks about primary wage or primary job, and we don't define primary job. And so I didn't know whether we necessarily wanted to take that back to that living wage. I also would ask you to look quite a bit at the EDOT plan, 6.5, the downtown waterfront, and this again is just the commentary area. Look at that in the EDOT plan information and think about, do you really want that in the economic development area, or do you just want the whole EDOT plan as an appendix at the end? you know, how do you want to work that? I would look at some of the goals and policies, and I noticed lacking in the goals and policies is anything about infrastructure and keeping infrastructure current, not only our transportation infrastructure, but our communications infrastructure.
Fiber optics.
Fiber optics, yeah, because I think if we're going to promote, depending on the type of businesses we're gonna promote, it's not gonna be industrial necessarily within our footprint. So what do we need to attract other businesses? I would also have you look at whether you want every center to have a grocery store.
That was from the health department, by the way. That
Yeah.
was their recommendation.
Yeah,
What
that
number's that?
every center have a health, and not only that, that the, that we promote, only healthy restaurants, and we eliminate fast food restaurants and convenience stores within our
What number is that?
centers. I don't remember, I
six.
just,
Yeah, I'd like to find that and mark it, because I actually,
there were several.
I think that may have been removed, and I don't know if this is the correct,
Do you think the McCormick Center would like to have their own grocery store?
And it talks about some things that I just don't know how we would implement. And so anyway, I'm just inviting the Economic Development Committee to read these thoroughly so that we can have a good discussion on it.
When do we need to read them by? When's our next discussion?
well, we're gonna have the workshop.
Next month.
I guess my goal would be to get the draft documents to the council about a month before our presentation, so that you can read through these and sort of know what's in the draft. So yeah, in the next 2 or 3 weeks would be good.
And if we read these, there are other things in here that I thought were counterproductive in that they talk about not adding any boater amenities, and that came out of that survey that we did, that the public didn't think we needed any more boater amenities, yet I believe the marine industry is very strong in Port Orchard, and I think that we should embrace boater amenities. It also talks about finding someplace along our shoreline to build boats and and I'm not sure that we can almost see our whole shoreline from this building, so I don't know that we're gonna find land to build boats on.
Well,
That was the KEDA recommendation.
are you talking about this page?
No, I'm talking about the whole thing. I've
Okay.
gone through it. We also, on one of the policies, is to prioritize the downtown waterfront for economic development, and secondary priorities would be Bethel, Lund, Sedgwick, Lower Mile Hill. And I think if we were to talk to Nick, he would tell us that most of our building applications and interest in this city is not downtown, it's out on Sedgwick and Pottery and Bethel. And so I think we need to think about if that's our priority. I mean, I just want us to go through this and make it a document that is actually usable for us. And so that's what I'm inviting you guys to do, so that when we have discussions, we're pretty much up to date on what it says.
The policy on the grocery stores is under goal 6. It's the second to last policy.
And it talks about compact centers. And it doesn't want strip malls, which I agree with, but the way they're describing compact centers, to me, it's almost a strip mall. So I just thought that, that we needed some work on it, and I wanted other people's opinions, and so that we could have a good dialogue about it.
Does it have something about mixed use where you have like commercial on the bottom and living?
It does, yeah.
It does.
It's encouraging that, especially in the centers.
Yeah. It has a lot of good things in it. It has other things that I just can't figure out how we're going to accomplish.
I'd love to sit down with you if you have the time and go through the notes.
I
that you've
would
taken.
love to, yeah.
So
And
let's
I-
set some time up maybe on Friday when Scott is here and we can all sit down and talk
Okay.
about it in L2.
I actually have a meeting with John Powers tomorrow.
Okay.
and I'm going over it with him,
Sounds good.
yeah.
I wanted to mention one other thing on the wayfinding sign. If we need any revisions, we've already identified a few. I'm gonna comb through this in detail. If you all wanna take a look at this in the next week or so, and if you see any other corrections that are needed or questions you have, please let me know. And I'll try to incorporate those and do like a final draft, and I'll have them fix those couple of issues.
I'll say right up front, anything, my issues are all gonna be visual, it's not gonna be technical.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wanna read through the construction notes and, you know, there may be something in there that it isn't apparent, but, have a look.
I'm gonna go through the sign placements and
Yeah,
Yeah, make sure that everything is on the map too, and that there's nothing else that's missing from the list.
yeah, that's great. And thank you for, all of the copies you made for us.
And and like I said, I'm gonna have Elle take a larger role in this, more of a
Yeah.
lead role, and I'm gonna come to all of the meetings, but, we're so busy right now,
Yeah.
and I've got so many things on my plate that it's
No, we need to make use of her, because she has great expertise, and, yeah, brings a lot to the table, so we appreciate it. Thank you, Ann.
So in the future, if you have things to add to the agenda or anything, just send me an email and let me know.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
great. Alrighty.
Yes.
Thank you.
German soccer team. Borussia Dortmund, that's the old, it's